Picture a single bucket large enough to swallow 12 cars whole. Imagine a bulldozer that survived rocket-propelled grenades, landmines, and decades of frontline war without flinching. These aren't fantasies. They're real machines built half a century ago when engineers cared more about brute strength than touchscreens. Today's high-tech equipment can't replicate what these legends did. They moved mountains, outlasted empires, and rewrote what was possible. Stay until the end. Number 1 will absolutely break your brain. Number 10. The Bucyrus-Erie 50B steam shovel. Let's begin our journey with a machine that didn't just build roads. It helped carve one of the most ambitious engineering projects in human history. The Bucyrus-Erie 50B steam shovel weighed 130,000 pounds, was rated at 75 tons, and stood as one of the largest tracked steam shovels in the world during its era. Between 1923 and 1939, Bucyrus and Bucyrus-Erie built 534 of these monsters. But what makes the 50B special is something modern equipment will never duplicate. In 1923, crawler tracks were added to the 50B model, creating the first heavy-duty, 360-degree rotation mobile shovels ever made. Before this innovation, steam shovels were stuck riding on railroad tracks, meaning you could only dig where the rails could go. The 50B liberated excavation forever. 25 of these shovels were shipped to Panama to help build bridges, roads, and drains for the Panama Canal expansion. All but one was scrapped there, but the survivor was shipped back to California, then operated at a placer mine in Colorado until 1978. Think about that. A steam-powered machine built in 1923 was still doing useful mining work 55 years later. No modern hydraulic excavator on Earth has demonstrated this kind of longevity. These shovels were built with cast iron components so thick that you could weld them, machine them, and rebuild them indefinitely. There were no computer modules to fail, no emission sensors to throw error codes, no proprietary diagnostic software locking you out of your own machine. If something broke, a blacksmith could fix it. That simplicity is exactly what modern equipment manufacturers have engineered out of existence. Number 9. The LeTourneau Tournapull. In April 1938, a stubborn, half-deaf inventor named Robert Gilmore LeTourneau unveiled a machine that the engineers at Caterpillar had told him was impossible. They called it not feasible. They were spectacularly wrong. LeTourneau named his contraption the Model A Tournapull, and it became the world's first true high-speed self-propelled motor scraper. The basic configuration of this scraper became the industry standard, featuring a single-axle prime mover with a unique hitch that allowed the two-wheel tractor to swing more than 90 degrees in each direction. That swivel hitch was revolutionary. The Tournapull was much faster than anything that came before it. LeTourneau was eventually granted 299 patents related to earth-moving equipment, and he produced 70% of all the heavy earth-moving equipment used by the Allies in World War II. Read that again. 70%. Here's what modern machines can't match. The Tournapull was electrically welded together at a time when every other manufacturer was still using rivets, making it both lighter and stronger. Original Tournapulls from the late 1930s and 1940s are still digging at antique equipment shows today, with their original Detroit diesel two-stroke engines firing up after sitting for decades. Try parking a modern scraper outside for 15 years and see if it starts. The DEF system alone will rebel. LeTourneau's machines were field rebuildable, simple, and brutally direct. Modern motor scrapers owe their entire layout to a single inventor's hospital bed sketch, and ironically, none of them last as long as the original. Number 8. The Euclid 1Z dump truck. Before the Euclid Road Machinery Company existed, mining and major construction relied on horse-drawn wagons and dinky on-highway trucks that couldn't handle real loads. Then, in 1934, Euclid introduced the Model 1Z, widely regarded as the world's first true off-highway rear dump truck designed explicitly for mining. It featured a 7-yard bed and was powered by a 100-horsepower Waukesha gas engine. Compared to today's 400-ton mega haulers, that sounds laughable, but the 1Z changed everything. Before this machine, mine operators were stuck laying rail lines to move ore. The 1Z replaced slow rail haulage with fast, flexible, rubber-tired transport, boosting productivity at quarries and early large-scale mines by handling payloads over rough terrain without any need for track infrastructure. By 1953, when General Motors acquired Euclid for $20 million, the company was producing 170 trucks per month, which was over half of America's entire off-highway dump truck supply. What modern trucks can't match is the sheer mechanical honesty of these early Eukes. They had no electronic throttle, no traction control, no payload monitoring computer telling you that you're 4% overloaded. Old Euclid operators routinely loaded their trucks heavier than spec for years on end without consequence. The frames were over-engineered to staggering tolerances. Today, if you overload a Cat 793F or a Komatsu 980E by even a small margin, the onboard payload computer logs it, derates the engine, and warranties avoided. The 1Z was the truck that started everything, and ironically its descendants are now too sophisticated to take the abuse the original was designed to absorb. Number 7. The Northwest 80D Crane and Dragline. If you've ever driven past an old gravel pit and spotted a rust-streaked friction clutch crane still pulling buckets full of sand, there's a good chance you were looking at a Northwest 80D. The Northwest Engineering Company was founded in 1917 in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and built a brand name and tradition that lives on as part of American history. The 80D was powered by Caterpillar or Murphy diesel engines in the 150 horsepower range, and these friction cranes used clutch and brake controls that were manually operated. What makes the 80D legendary is that it had no hydraulics. None. The boom went up and down on a cable drum. The bucket released because a foot brake released a clutch. The entire machine was a symphony of mechanical relationships, and a skilled operator could feel exactly what was happening through the pedals and levers. Northwest 80Ds from the 1940s and 1950s are still working today, primarily in pile driving, dragline work, and clamshell operations. Here's the brutal truth modern equipment can't match. A hydraulic excavator depends entirely on its hydraulic system. One blown hose can sideline a $600,000 machine for days while you wait for parts. A Northwest 80D, if its cable breaks, you splice in a new cable in 2 hours with hand tools. They're powered by Detroit diesels and Cummins engines that have run for 30,000 hours without being opened up. The simplicity is a feature, not a flaw, and contractors who work in remote locations, on barges, or in places where breakdowns mean disaster still actively seek out these vintage cranes because nothing modern matches their field rebuildability. Number 6. The Caterpillar D8H. The Caterpillar D8H is the bulldozer that built the modern world. Produced from 1958 to 1974, it was powered by a Caterpillar D342 diesel engine, a 6-cylinder powerhouse producing around 270 horsepower with an operating weight ranging from 80,000 to 90,000 pounds depending on configuration. The D8H is so durable that many of these machines are still running on farms, construction sites, and in logging operations today, nearly 70 years after the earliest examples rolled off the assembly line. But here's what makes the D8H special, and what modern dozers genuinely cannot replicate. It uses a pony motor starting system. A small gasoline engine, called the pony motor, cranks the main diesel engine, with its exhaust ingeniously routed around the diesel's intake to act as a primitive preheater for cold starts. It sounds archaic, and it is, but it's also a starting system that will never let you down in temperatures where modern electric starters fail and modern batteries die. The D8H's appeal comes from its unmatched longevity. The mechanical simplicity means a competent owner-operator can rebuild every system on the machine with hand tools and a welder. There are no electronic engine control modules that fail and brick the entire bulldozer. The transmission is a direct drive mechanical unit that, when properly maintained, will outlast multiple operators. Logging contractors in British Columbia and Alaska still prefer running D8Hs because when you're 200 kilometers from the nearest dealer, the last thing you need is a check engine light that requires a laptop and a $4,000 software license to clear. Number 5. The Bucyrus-Erie 1950B Shovel, Gem of Egypt. In the strip mining boom of the late 1960s, a machine appeared in Ohio so massive it had to be assembled on site over many months. Only 2 Bucyrus-Erie 1950B shovels were ever built, the Gem of Egypt and her sister machine, the Silver Spade. These were among only 2 machines to use the knee-action crowd licensed from Marion Power Shovel in exchange for Marion's use of Bucyrus-Erie's cable crowd patent. In a power shovel, crowding is the action of pushing the bucket on the end of a dipper stick in or out to control the depth of cut or to position for dumping. With knee-action design, the handle is connected to a movable pivot point rather than being supported directly by the boom. This made possible the largest shovels ever built, increased digging power, allowed the bucket to move horizontally into the cut, and improved swing efficiency, distance, and radius. The Gem of Egypt swung a bucket capable of moving 130 cubic yards of overburden in a single pass. To put that in perspective, the largest hydraulic mining shovels built today, like the Liebherr R9800 or the Komatsu PC8000, max out at around 50 cubic yard buckets. The Gem moved nearly 3 times that volume in a single scoop. No machine has been built like her since the 1970s because hydraulic excavators have entirely replaced cable shovels in most applications. But the Gem of Egypt represented a pinnacle of mechanical engineering that the industry deliberately walked away from. Modern equipment is more efficient per dollar, but in raw production per pass terms, nothing today can equal what the Gem could do in 1967. Number 4. The Allis-Chalmers HD-41 Big Roy. In 1969, at the Conexpo trade show in Chicago, Allis-Chalmers unveiled a 524-horsepower behemoth they called the HD-41. It was the largest crawler in the world at the time. The machine was over 20 feet long, 11 feet wide, and 13 feet tall, running on a 524-horsepower Cummins turbocharged V12 engine that measured 1,710 cubic inches of displacement. The HD-41 was so big that competing manufacturers genuinely scrambled to catch up. Production was incredibly limited, from around 1970 to 1973. In 1974, Allis-Chalmers entered a joint venture with Fiat for its construction division, and the model became the Fiat-Allis 41B, with iterations produced into the 1980s. By the mid to late 1970s, it was no longer the largest dozer on the market, having been surpassed by Komatsu's D455A and Caterpillar's D10. But here's the kicker. Only a few hundred HD-41s were ever built, and surviving examples like Big Roy, a 1972 model now operating at the Low Country Antique Tractor and Engine Association in South Carolina, still run perfectly. What modern dozers cannot match is the HD-41's hydraulic simplicity married to brute mechanical strength. Its V12 Cummins is naturally aspirated for steady torque without complex emissions controls. The tracks come up to a tall man's shoulders, and the entire structure is overbuilt in ways modern emissions and fuel economy targets would never allow. The HD-41 was the last generation of pre-electronic superdozers, designed before computer-aided engineering shaved every ounce of wasted metal off the frames. That excess steel is exactly what allows Big Roy to keep running 53 years later. Number 3. The Bagger 288. When German company Krupp completed the Bagger 288 in 1978 for the energy and mining firm Rheinbraun, it superseded Big Muskie as the heaviest land vehicle in the world at 13,500 tons. It took 5 years to design and manufacture, and another 5 years to assemble, with the total cost reaching $100 million. The machine is 225 meters long and 96 meters high, with a bucket wheel made up of 18 buckets and measuring 22 meters in diameter. The Bagger 288 can move 240,000 cubic meters of earth per day. To put that in perspective, that's equivalent to more than 10,000 dump truck loads of material every single day. Its bucket wheel is driven by 4 840 kilowatt motors, giving an aggregate drive power of 3,360 kilowatts, equivalent to more than 30 compact cars. Thick cables deliver 30,000 volts of power to the Bagger 288, which features more than 120 kilometers of internal cabling. Now here's what modern equipment absolutely cannot match. In 2001, when the machine was finished excavating coal at the Hambach mine, Krupp needed to move the Bagger 288 to the Garzweiler mine. Rather than disassemble it, they walked it across 22 kilometers of German countryside. including across Autobahn 61, the River Erft, a railroad line, and several roads. The 3-week trip cost nearly 15 million German marks and required a team of 70 workers. Try walking any modern earth-moving machine across a major motorway. No mobile machine built since has the combination of size, self-walking capability, and operational longevity of the Bagger 288. It's still running today, still producing more coal in a day than entire fleets of modern excavators combined. Number 2. The Belaz 75710, the 450-ton giant. Picture a dump truck so large that it carries more weight in a single load than a fully fueled Boeing 747. That's the Belaz 75710, the largest and heaviest dump truck ever built, and it holds the Guinness World Record to prove it. Manufactured in Belarus and rolled out in 2013, this 2-axle monster has a payload capacity of 450 metric tons, beating the previous record holders, the 400-ton Caterpillar 797F and Liebherr T282B. It stands over 8 meters tall, nearly 21 meters long, and almost 10 meters wide, riding on 8 enormous Michelin tires. Fully loaded, it tips the scales at around 810 tons. Powering it are two 16-cylinder diesel engines producing a combined 4,600 horsepower, feeding a diesel-electric drive system that spins 4 electric traction motors. During testing, it hauled a staggering 503 tons in a single run. Here's what makes it special. Rather than a single engine, Belaz split the power across 2, distributing the load evenly across all 4 corners so existing tires could handle the weight. No other haul truck on Earth matches its payload, and as of today, it remains unbeaten, the undisputed king of mine haulage. Number 1. The Marion 5960 MEM. The Big Digger. We've reached number 1, and this machine was the only shovel on Earth that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Captain itself. Built by the legendary Marion Power Shovel Company, the Marion 5960M earned the nickname the Big Digger, and it was the 2nd largest machine Marion ever built and the 3rd largest shovel in the world. It went to work at Peabody Coal Company's River Queen surface mine in Central City, Kentucky, where it became a legend among the men who ran it. The Big Digger swung a colossal 125 cubic yard bucket on a 215-foot boom, weighed roughly 7,338 tons, and could tear into a coal seam with a force few machines have ever matched. Through 1978 alone, it moved an astonishing 240 million cubic yards of earth, and in 1982 it set an industry record for best operating time that stood for years. Here's what modern equipment can't replicate. The Big Digger was a cable-operated electric shovel of a class that simply isn't built anymore. When it was finally scrapped in early 1990 in Muhlenberg County, Kentucky, an entire era of American super shovels died with it, and no machine has carried that torch since. If you enjoyed this deep dive into vintage construction iron, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment letting me know which old machine you've actually seen working in person, because I read every single one. And if you want more videos breaking down the wild engineering history behind the heaviest machines ever built, let me know in the comments which legendary machine you want me to cover next. Was it Big Muskie, the Captain, or the Bagger 288 that surprised you the most? Tell me below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.